back on the
57.
58 John Deere 620, and I thought I'd start back where I kind of left off with these head bolts. I said I had two left that snapped off. They're like this long, so I welded a nut on top. Well, that snapped it off about here and left about this much on the bottom. So then I welded. I have to put my gloves on. It's hot. I welded this big nut on that. Took an 1 1/8 inch. But just believe me, it's an 1 1/8 inch. It's a big one. And I chose a big one so that it wouldn't break off, so I'd have a lot of room to weld. Right here, on here, so I'd have a lot of room to weld. It broke off anyway. But the good thing is, when I had it nice and hot from putting all that weld on, and I hit this with a hammer, and I hit that, geez, why can't I find where I'm working? There it is there. Just looks kind of white to me. Such a glare. Okay, so putting this weld on, using the stick welder, putting that weld on there, heated it up at least. That's the only thing I really got out of it. And then I found out, just before I turned the camera on, I pulled it a little bit, it broke loose, so I knew I'm probably home free on one. I'll just keep turning it. I put the ground clamp on the other one. I just kept turning it. So I'm pretty sure then I'm going to be able to get this one out. I'll just reset the vice grip. Maybe just straight up and down if it's going to be. I don't know what did it. I guess the heat from welding it didn't hurt anything. I did quench it with a little water, but it didn't quench, so I just quit. It wasn't hot enough. I mean, the head part is what I was trying to quench. This part wasn't hot enough, so it isn't going to come out that easy. Crescent wrench or something. Okay, it is. Just had to get something. Okay, I can leave that in a little bit to put the ground clamp in. So what I want to do is go back out to my table and blow all that metal back out of here. So I can use this nut again. I'm going to put it on 220 and then blow all that out of here. Then I can use the same nut, and it might work the same. It might break again, but the welding filling up the whole center of this big huge nut will make it hot enough to come out. I'll leave this other one in just enough so I can put the ground clamp on it. Okay, I hollowed it back out. Now I'm going to stick it over the broken stud and weld it back on. Well, let me get the welder set on 250 and then get that welded on there. Yeah, I just reset the heat. I forgot it on 250. Now it should weld normal. Well, I couldn't figure out why, when I first started welding it, why it was different than the other one. Then I realized I forgot to turn the temperature down from the 250. Hopefully I didn't weld it to the head. We'll know here real shortly. It's coming. Same as the other one. Work it a bunch of times. Make sure it don't break off. Go a little further each time. She's off. I just like to know if I burnt the head at all. Nope, didn't. Okay, those two are out of there. And I think I just got to run a tap through all the holes now. So that cleans the head up, ready for the new $325 worth of parts. Now I got to see about unlocking the motor. Well, the one reason that stud broke off, not that it wasn't rusted and tight inside the head, was, there it focused. You can see how it tapers there? Tapers down to a skinny little thing. So it's not the size it's supposed to be anymore. It rusted away all the way around the 360. So now it's just a little tiny little 1/4 inch bolt or 5/16. Well, I'm taking off the generator. While I'm doing that, this clamp for the piece of wiring, I imagine for the generator, it's that's hard to do. I think that bolt that was skinnier was from the generator. Was from the inside bolts from the intake. That piece of wire. There, the wrenches on it. Almost had it before. Right there. Right in there. Yeah, you can see the elbow type clamp. If I get the wrench off there, you can see it probably. So, generator. Yeah, there's that sharp thing. It's got a very sharp point on it. And it was bent way up high when I started on the generator bolt. So I'm taking that off and throwing it. Like, it's like these tie clips when you cut them off. Now they're super sharp. I would rather not have that there and not get poked. So it's coming off and never going back on. Well, here's a better way to show how sharp it was. Now, had they bent this around and made a, well, it's the same as clothes. When you sew, you'd have a hem on it. But if you would have bent that around, then and then ground these corners off, then maybe be fine to use, but they just they like put a knife on there. That's what they did. So when you work on the generator, you could just get cut by this sheet metal knife. Oh, now I see if I take out the generator, there's a bracket that it mounts to, so the head won't be able to come up more than just a little bit further. But not this far. Might as well take it off the rest of the way. Get that extra inch. Think it's out. So I guess there's a built-in spacer there, or is it just stuck? I think it's a welded built-in spacer. Anyway, I'm going to put these nuts and bolts back on so I don't have to look for them later. Set this aside. Well, for some reason I didn't have to take any wires off, so it was just this one wire I took off that ran with the gas tank that was off earlier. Then this is the one that adjusts it, that you put on the long strap type flat iron. And these are the two bottom ones that hold it down in that mount. And there's the mount. Looks like the mount unbolts, so I'm lucky, but it looks awful rusty. This thing is heavy. Oh my gosh, the generator bolt mount's actually coming off. Let me see what size I got on there. It's a 3/4. I didn't tug too hard on that one. Let's try this one. I didn't try it yet. Didn't come. Oh, there goes squashed. Okay, well, that one I'm going to have to go back and forth a bunch of times so it don't snap. Probably about 25 times. Then I'll go for it. Nope, I went back and forth about 5 times and then turned it a quarter turn. Then did it 5 more times. Turned it a quarter turn, did it a couple times and switched to a ratchet. Yeah, they're coming out, so it'll be off there. Then we're on the next thing. Yeah, by taking that generator bracket out of there, definitely the generator to go out of there, and probably the bracket. I was able to lift it out of there. I should have left it on for that, but I didn't even think I would be able to get it out of there. I hate to set it on this frame here and put a scratch where the head gasket seals, so I'm going to at least get it down there on that piece of cardboard. Maybe I could put it on that milk crate. Or no, the cardboard, so that I can tip it over and see how many valves are stuck. Or I can do that right the way it sits because they're all way up in there, so I could push down. And I see this side, number 2, that was getting the moisture. Number 2 valve seems to be open partially, and then it's stuck that way because there would be nothing holding it open right now. So it's stuck that way. Let me see here. Yeah, these are much flatter on the, I guess you can't see. And let me take that off here. The bottom side there, the bottom side there is, they're flat. They're all the way closed. Where this one up here, this one right here, you can see it's up. I'm running my finger on those down there. They're not like that. They're not like that. This one's up. That's where the moisture came in, and that's one that's going to have the seat I'm gonna have to get my seat tools and see if I got any tools for that big of a valve. Oh well, so now that can get worked on. It's out of the tractor. So now I got all this room from the fan holder. This thing is the fan holder, except for that radiator hose sticking out. Right there. It's flat then. It's flat then all the way back, except for that radiator hose sticking out up until you hit the fan brace. So it feels like, in like a farmall, that would be the whole area that the engine would take up. That's empty. Just about. Especially if you took that block piece, cylinder piece, the block piece off. So now I got some room. So what it is, I think my pistons they're almost the same. Number one's a little farther down than number two. I'm saying maybe we're going to call this one on the driver's, on the left side. If you're driving the tractor to the left side, I'm going to call that number one. I'm going to call this number two for now anyway. Or I could call it left and right. But left is one and right's going to be number two. And I can see that number two here is a little further up than number one. Number one's just a little further down by maybe an inch or so, inch and a half. So when that one's all the way down, which it has probably the same distance to go down as this one has to come up. So but they don't come all the way up, I guess. They're a couple inches from the top or something. I'm just guessing at all this from watching a video maybe last year. I don't think they come all the way to the tip top. Somebody was saying if they had some rust up here, it wouldn't matter because the piston don't come quite all the way up. So
they come all the way up.
Use the full distance, but let's say it's half that distance, which would be about 2 inches. So that means number one there would go down 2 more inches, and then number two would be all the way up in 2 more inches. So if I was trying to pound in on it with a block, I should have easy 2 inches before it hits the bottom, if that's what I'm going to do. Otherwise, the only other thing I could do is use a bottle jack and somehow use these studs with a piece of chain on it or something, or a bracket I could make that would go to the end of the bottle jack. So I'm going to either have to pound on it from this side, thinking I have a couple inches to move, because I've already on a short stroke, and this is a short stroke now because they shortened it from a John Deere 60, but I've already taken a short stroke car that I never dreamed it was all the way down, and spent all this time and blew out a couple bottle jacks, and here it was all the way down. That's why it didn't move. So now I'm really cautious of that. So that's why I figured out that this one definitely has a couple inches to go down in case I use a bottle jack and a chain or something. I don't like swinging in there. This ain't like a farmall where you're swinging from up on top up here. I've swung as long as 3 or 4 hours all afternoon to loosen one up doing that, which I don't think I would do that again. I would probably try the bottle jack or porta power. So this is what I got to do now. I got to start trying to, and it's just unbelievably tight because I had that 4-foot bar on the flywheel and I couldn't budge it. And it can't soak it because it's sideways. And even when I did try to fill it up with the head on there, the spark plug hole is halfway up the head. So you're only still filling the bottom portion. And then I had some of that leak start leaking out the oil filter. I couldn't seal up, so I couldn't get the whole thing filled up no matter what, and couldn't even keep it in the bottom portion on one of these two. I think on this one, because this one still had some in when I split it, or split the head away. That's what was leaking. And I don't think that gravel stuff fell out of these cooling holes or anything, because I remember I had to get a box end wrench. I got a box end wrench like this that was curved. So I didn't think I would scratch it that way, and I had to loosen all that stuck stuff. It looked like floor dry. I had to loosen all that up, so that did not just fall out of these holes when I pulled the head back. That was there, so it's like somebody put some stuff down the spark plug hole. I guess with that valve being open, but it's open so tiny, like an 1/8 inch, I guess we'll say that the valve was open enough so that rusted out exhaust or intake manifold, exhaust manifold went down in there. We'll just say that's what it was. Gotta say it was something, otherwise somebody put something down the spark plug hole. So that's probably all I'm going to do on it today. I'll just continue this video in the morning, and I'll just say good morning, and then it'll be the unlocking morning. Okay, here we go. It's a new day. The day to try to unstick this engine, and I thought I would leave this thing sitting for the last 2 days with me jacking up on this lobe that sticks out here on the flywheel. Just happened to be about the right spot to start going up. I left it like that, and hang up about the end of my jack, plus it looks like it's starting to go crooked, and I don't need it hitting me in the head. I'm at the end of the limit. It didn't do any good, but if I pound on the piston, it won't hurt to have something. Of course, I don't know which way it turns, so I can't turn the engine to see which way anything goes. So I'm going to have to take the cover off the crankcase and look to see which way the crank would pull the rod or push it, so that I know with this force, I don't want to stand there. Bad idea. But I've already had a couple jacks slip and hit me. One hit me in the neck once. Good way to kill yourself. I'm going to try to pound with a board in the piston area to see how much swing I get with a hammer. The same direction that this is helping me push up, I guess. Got to start somewhere.
Except I'm pushing it up backwards, and for some reason this engine don't turn over backwards.
Okay, I removed the crank cover, and
very far anyway.
This side here, we're going to call piston
number one.
If this goes up, the flywheel goes up like the jack is jacking it to put pressure. That crank lobe on one is down, which will be pushing it up or out. The other one is up. It's already at the top, so it'll be going down. So that means I could pound on that one in. And so that's what I'm going to do.
Except
to get a block
the motor doesn't like to be pushed backwards.
Okay, here's one idea. Get you so you can see this great dumb idea. But I got this almost 4 foot rod from the that I took off the loader into the piston hole, because I don't like swinging down in that little hole. So there, I could swing right there. Of course, if I missed the thing, I'd hit the radiator. But then if I put this there, I'm not worried about this on. This is 2 inches thick. This has got some momentum in itself. But I can't just go into the piston like that. I'd have to build a curved piece of wood on the bottoms to keep it from scratching up the cylinder on the bottom where it's resting. Then I'd have to cut something to go in there like a big washer. And I do have this, it's an axle cut off a lawnmower, an expensive old antique lawnmower that took the 5 lug nuts. Now that's just a little bit bigger than the 5.5. Let me pause this. I'll measure it and we'll see how much I'd have to grind off. It's about 5 5/8. So I'd have to take off an 1/8 inch. Another great job for a lathe that I don't have. Maybe I even want a little play, so I might have to take off an 1/8 to a 1/4 off all the way around, which, good job for my grinder. It's not like I could spin this in any drill press. I don't have a chuck that big. And then I'd have to decide if I need to get rid of this thing. I think I would. And this wouldn't go flat against the piston because it's got this thing raised up 1/8 inch. Well, that's if I wanted to use this pipe. But if I put a porta power in there and use the head bolts, I'd still want this thing against this big, using this for a big washer. I'd still want this against the piston, so I'm not, those could be aluminum. And it shouldn't, since this is nice and circular, the same size as the 5.5 inch piston. What I think I got is a 302.9 cubic inch, and it's 5.50, so 5.5 inches crest. And the stroke is, if I'm at the top, I could beat on it or push on it for 6.37 inches. 6.375 inches, and I could, which I'm never going to have it all the way to the top and then pound it all the way to the bottom, I don't think, but I think that's what the 6 inches means. It's the stroke will go that far, 6 inches, and I think I'm about in the middle right now. This one being further up, so I think the other one's further down. But I know I can pound this a little bit, and it's going the way I got the jack jacked up on the flywheel. So I'm going to get this cut off. I don't think I'm going to use this to swing on because I don't feel like trying to build something to protect the bottom of the cylinder. But I think I'll try the porta power with using the head bolts. Try that. Be back when I got the porta power hooked up. Okay, I got the hard part ground. Took her down with a hand grinder and then finished up by spinning it on a bench grinder. There's my little wiggle room. Goes right in. Now, should I try to push on this rod? Well, if I was going to try to push on this, I'd have to square it off. Very crooked cut. And then I'd have to use a shorter porta power ram, so I'll have to see. Well, let's see what's inside this thing. on the sides. My first porta power. It doesn't got very many tonnage of push. It's just for body panels. I should have bought a better one, but it might work for this. We got to get the ram out. Since it's brand new, I suppose I got to check the oil on it, see if there's any air in it, and get the ram hooked to it. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so I bought the attachments that go with it that were more money than this, so I'm going to get that out and see if one of those rams will work better. Let me go get the other choice of rams.
Yeah, and I did use one out of that, so. Because that other kit there only gives you a choice of one length of ram.
Basically, the first kit was $20 less than this one, and with tax it was $400. I think $401, unfortunately. But I don't want to be stuck in a position where you have to use just that one ram for length. As you can see, this gives me two different lengths. Not two, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different lengths. And then, I don't know about these. These are for doing something with frames, with chain. I don't see how a porta power could pull. So I don't know anything about those two. Definitely didn't buy it for those two. I wanted these short ones. In case I gotta push a piston out, I can put this inside the crank area where maybe this longer one wouldn't have fit. That's the only reason I got this, and maybe it'll save me some hassle. So let's get this one open and bring it back in a second when I get this open. Okay, let's see if what's in here was on the picture. I didn't know I was in this plastic case. Well, it was in a. I was thinking I had to go buy a metal toolbox to store all these rams, but there it is, a ram storage plastic bin. Yeah. When they say that's only a 4-ton, I think that's probably because of the ram, but probably doesn't have much. I don't know if it has much to do with this part or not. I guess it could be both. I mean, with a bottle jack, they're all together. You got the ram and this, so I don't know. But what I'm getting at is this is a bigger ram than that other one, so this would probably be, 6 or 10 ton or something. Obviously it tells me.
That turned out to be correct.
Here's that short bugger in case I want to get in the, push it out from in the crank area if I get it loosened up. So now to figure out which one I'm going to use and to build a thing where the head bolt studs will be the, unless I got to take the studs out and then use a bolt that's the same size from the hardware store in where the stud was, one or the other. I'm going to try to build a thing where this can push in off it. So it is the ram then that makes the ton weight, because this skinny one, in fact, I got a double by buying that case. I was thinking I didn't get any doubles, but another one of these, and that's what came with the other one. That's why the other one's called a 4-ton then, because it's labeled 4-ton, and so if I used a 10-ton ram, so probably I should use the 10-ton ram then when trying to break this free. This is probably more pressure than trying to spread apart some sheet metal. Okay, so I got the shaft cut here, nice and square with the chop saw. Then I cut a little piece of a split 2x4, so I can slide this in, and then this little split 2x4 will hold it up until I put the porta power against it right there. Now I'm going to use these two bolts that are across from each other. This one, and the bottom one. So I'll have a plate, a flat plate to push off of that will be connected with 3 head bolts, so it won't push more one way than the other and bend these, I hope. Now I got to go cut the plate. And to cut the plate, I've got this piece of flat stock out here. I can't remember how thick it is. I'll set the camera down and measure it. It's 3/8 by 5. And I want to get something that's about 9 by 8.5, and then I'll have to trim a piece off the edge of it so it doesn't hit the frame. To drill my holes, my 3 holes that are going to overlap the head bolt. And so I'll cut, I guess it's 9 crossways. So I'm going to cut 2 of these 9, or one of, I cut 2 of these at 9 inches, add together, and it's only 5 inches. So that'll give me 10 inches, and I need 9. So then with the stick welder, I'll burn off an inch, and then I'll make the angles so it doesn't hit the frame. And then I'll burn my holes in with the stick welder, I think, instead of drilling with the drill press. And then I'll have this piece. Well, the chop saw helped me out there and made it neater looking than the stick welder ripping some steel. I guess I could V them a little where I'm going to weld them in the middle. Unless I go over there and line up the plates where I want to cut the holes to have the porta power go against. Unless I see something different, I'm going to go ahead and weld the 2 together. I decided I've done enough grinding. I'm just going to crank up the stick welder. Maybe I'll put it on about 150, burn it in. And I don't think I want much weld in the center, because that's where the, oh, that's right, the center The center will probably be around in here where the porta power goes, because I only needed to add on a couple inches. So I won't worry about that. I'll tack it on each end, flip it around, tack it, and maybe I can put some kind of a piece of metal across it to keep it from warping. Here we go. I'm going to get the chipping hammer. That was on 140. I didn't think it burned in much.
The metal's 3/8 of an inch thick. So that's why I can crank it up to 160.
Well, the wild's holding it up. If I clamp it down, probably make it crooked. I don't know. Nice and straight. Let's just tack it. It worked. I'll bend it back straight off camera. Well, I don't know if that piece of metal I put across will keep it from warping. I pounded it back straight in my railroad track. I'll do a couple inches on this side and both sides, and I'll flip it and do a couple inches, and then flip it. And I'm only using it for a porta power thing. It's not going to be a piece of art, so I'm going to weld it up off camera. Then I got to burn those holes in the right spot. Then I can start pushing with the porta power. Okay, there's a real glare out here. I even put that one pass over here where it wasn't even on the seam, but I'm welding outside and it's glare. So that oughta, I put it on 160 DC, and I welded it on both sides. It burned in almost flush, so I'm sure that'll be good enough to push off of. Of course, it's only 3/8 of an inch thick, so we'll see what happens. Now to get the holes burned in. Okay, here we go. Not that much longer, but a long time later. I have to cut these holes. Still hot. One of them's a hair tight somewhere, one of the 5. But that's the plate. Now I just got to get the porta power in there. I mean, get the nuts on, then get the porta power in there. Well, now I'm getting the nuts on. I don't even remember what size socket, so I got to go get the ratchet and crank them all in. Yeah, seems like I'll just put all the nuts about flush, and I think they'll be putting a little pressure on all of them. Get that done. I know what it is now for size. I tried a 15/16 and it didn't fit. I remember now, it's 1 inch. I've found every socket 2 or 3 under 1 inch and a couple over, but no 1 inch. I suppose I left it out so I would find it quickly. That never works. I'll find it. I was on the front of the tractor, on the little shelf after taking the grill off where I put a lot of bolts. I mean, nuts. So I want this to go real good, but I don't know any reason why any of these would strip. I didn't do anything to help myself, like put some oil on them. Flush. Oh, this one's a lot better. Flush. Just gonna try putting them all flush and see how the plate fits. See if it's touching all. I don't know that I needed, what do I got? 1, 2, 4, and there's a fifth one. There's a fifth one, I didn't drill, I mean I cut with the welder, but if I needed to, and I could go put more washers on all these, I could get a fifth one. Okay, that one's flush. I know this thing's not going to just push back. I'm probably going to have to put all the pressure on it I can. Oh, and then I was going to say I could hit it. But that's the problem with this plate. Now I can't hit it because it's covering up too much of the area. Okay. Flush. Okay, now what's not working with them all flush? This one, not even touching. So I'll back that one up and I'll put 2 washers on it and then come back. Okay, there. I think all the washers aren't wiggling. Oh, that one is. Well, when I get pressure with the porta power, I'll touch them all with a hammer to see if any of them need to go tighter, where all the force should be going on just 2 of them. So I see the porta power from the way I cut that off. What the heck? Why is this so close to the even here? Well, must just be a 1/16 of an inch from hitting. So anyway, it fits in there. Go all the way down just to make sure this plate's still hot. Yep, there's no slack, so I definitely can push with this measurement. So after dinner, and that's right, I'm not even going to eat because we're going out to eat tonight, and I don't want to get so full that I can't eat tonight. So the flashlight shut off. Seems like seems to be plenty straight enough, and I could always adjust it by backing off a few nuts. It should push pretty straight without slipping. So, just gonna take a break. Well, there it is. It's on that hub of a that hub of an antique lawnmower. I would say one from the 60s. That 5-hole hub. I cut the axle down just right so that I didn't even have to run the ram out that far till tight. Well, it was tight, almost within a quarter inch. And then I didn't know where to put this, so I didn't want to stand by that, so I actually reached to the floor and I put my foot on it. And guess what happened? After putting my foot on it, the first time I thought something might have changed. This is where I put the line on the crank. I drew a line right there. And the line was even. The line was even with the back of that nut. And it doesn't look like it on camera, but this nut is now a quarter inch, about a quarter inch further. Maybe even a half inch. And I even heard something. So I even heard something. So all this work cutting that plate and getting this porta power, I would have been hammering for days, and I don't like how you have to hammer down inside there. And yeah, I think that long 4-foot bar would have worked to pound up there by the radiator, but it would have been on an angle, and maybe I could have cut that same thing in there that I cut. That same thing in there that I cut, I could have pounded that big bar into, but then I would have had to come up with a piece of curved wood, like take a part of a fence post and sawzall pieced off so it could be in the bottom of the cylinder so it wouldn't scratch it. But now I don't have to do any of those ideas. It doesn't look that shiny in there or anything. Of course, oil would have been on stuff, but it's got that rust tint to it. So I thought I might never get it, and I also have to watch to make sure that governor gear back there is going to turn with the other gear. Well, hopefully it turns and doesn't break or anything. And so now all I got to do is push it all the way down to get it moving another inch, and then come back here and put the porta power in between here, and then go back the other way. Then come back this way and go back the other way and come back this way and go back the other way until I can eventually turn it with the flywheel, pipe wrench, and cheater bar.
These are just
so now
ideas.
I'm getting somewhere. Totally getting somewhere. Yay. Well, now it's break time. I never did take one. I wanted to. This piece of metal was still hot, but cooled down enough before I went in, and I was able to do that. So I don't want to go too far to where I can't get a porta power in between there to bring it back. Otherwise, then I'd have to build a plate for the other side. Unless this one would fit the other side. I don't think it would. I'd have to build a plate for the other side to do the same thing. I don't want to build another plate. So I would try to force it back from in the crank area and then keep pushing it back from over here. It's going to be a lot of back and forth, I think. I'm not certain that even at the end of the day I would have it loose, but I'll keep updating here.
Hey, get the porta power put together?
Yep, and I built the plate. I built the plate so I could push, and then that side and it actually made a noise and started moving without snapping and breaking everything.
Wow.
And then the part of the porta power I bought that has those chain hooks. These things that I said I would probably never use, so I didn't even know how porta power worked. It actually pulls.
Oh, wow.
So then I put that big rod on the flywheel, only with a pipe wrench this time, not those goofy things I made that are up there in the end that I welded on. They just didn't do it. The whole thing would just fall off last year when I was trying it when I first bought it. So I put the pipe wrench on, which you can see if you come closer. You see, I found somebody on the internet that showed me how to use a pipe wrench.
Oh.
They've got these square things, and it didn't break off, but I'd already loosened it with the porta power on the other side. So with that plate, see that plate there?
I do.
Right here, I was able to use this hub that's for a lawnmower. See, that's for lug nuts.
Okay.
And I was able to make that hub for a lawnmower fit in there so I didn't have to push on the aluminum piston and break it.
Wow.
Then I used one of those shorter rams that I said the reason I should buy the extended set of different size rams. So then I used that right away because that long ram would have never fit in there between those head bolts. So I was able to push it that way, I don't know, an inch, inch and a half. That's a long way when it's locked. Maybe I got it 2 inches. But this handle was about the same angle the other way when I started pulling it back. And then I didn't know, every time I started doing it with this thing, by the time the ram would come in, you only get so much. I would only get a little pulling power, and because it takes a long time to tighten the chain on.
Oh.
Then I remembered chain binder.
That's quite a lot of ingenuity in there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep going back and forth, and then right here, I'm exactly back to where it was stuck. Because right here, I stood on this milk crate with no more than this 4-foot bar, and I pulled it at least 5 inches to where it sits right now. It was maybe about up here. I pulled it by hand with that bar, so I actually got it to move without the porta power.
Oh.
So that means, if nothing else, maybe I can get it to go back and forth, the 2 inches one way, the 2 inches back this way, the 2 inches that way, the 2 inches back this way. And then maybe sooner or later I'll get it to go a little farther in each direction, and maybe someday here I'll get it unlocked so I can get those pistons out of there.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna head in. Bye.
All right, bye.
See you later.
There's the chalk mark that I just put on the pulley. I just noticed this was moving, so I can quit looking at that or trying to stick my head in where I could get hurt. So, pumping away at this thing. It's going that way.
Yeah, and
That's the way I said if I pushed in with this one, the top is going over the top and going that way. It's going over that way towards the seat.
and that's wrong because that's not the way the motor turns.
That's what we just did before when I did it. But it's taken way too much.
And where it gets stuck each time to where no matter how much force I put on it, it won't go.
That's a lot of force to unlock it. The first time I had to put my foot on there. I had to do 2 pumps with my foot. Then it made a noise. I guess that was breaking loose. So it's the same thing. It's going to be the same thing. I move it this way, then I go back that way, then I move it this way, and I go back that way. But it takes a long time because I can't just take a bar and pull it back. I'm going to have to find some way to lube it every time so it'll get easier and easier. Otherwise, I don't know that would get easier.
If only I would have known
I
it won't.
shot some more oil in there last time.
If only I'd have known it wouldn't go backwards.
I'm concerned how far to go with it. If I go too far, then I might not be able to do the same method I did get back. That's the other problem. I was able to bring that bar all the way up and around and down near the ground. Now I'm putting it back on the backside where I'd have to pull up again. I got to the point where I could get up even with the frame and stand on it. And then I even put a piece of rebar, about an inch round rebar, in the end to give me another couple feet. So that piston came, that piston on number 2 on the other side is all the way up. It started to go down again. And inside here, inside there, that's the 6-inch. It's about the 6-inch drop that it goes down, and it's hitting all kind of rust on the back side. That down inside there, way up. I'll just take my word for it. Way up in there, this number 1 piston was being shoved way out. To be way down like that, of course, it had to be. It comes way out of the block part and sticks out. Of course, the rings don't, but the bottom part of the piston does. And then it starts up, and this one has a rusty part on it. I'm trying to go all the way to meet that from the other side because I couldn't break it going the other way. So now I was able to come all the way up. But this one over here, number 2, that one over there, if it was a car, you'd say the passenger side. That one has never went all the way down. There's some rust down in there or something. So that's what I'm hoping to achieve here. Monkeying around. I could push this back with the porta power again now. So this one's reached the bottom and is going to return, but this one never has. That's the problem.
The problem always was when I'm trying to push it backwards, this won't go backwards. So once I started trying to only go counterclockwise, then it started working when I quit trying to do the backwards thing of clockwise. There's something that inside there that on a John Deere that won't let you go backwards for some reason. At least that's the way it seems.
Still a workout, but I just went all the way around for the second time. I even pushed it without a cheater bar.
If only I'd have known that, I would have never tried to go backwards. I would have always tried to go counterclockwise like this.
But I might have wrecked something inside there because I didn't know you couldn't turn a John Deere backwards. I'm still not sure about that, but there's something that was jumping. I want to get my wife to come out and look in there to see if the governor's going around. So I'm going to go get her right now. Okay, I got the wife looking in there to make sure the governor's going to go around or if it's not jumping the teeth. The turn? Not jumping the teeth or nothing.
Oh, I don't see it on the teeth anymore.
Well, you should see the gear way up in their turn. The one's hooked to the flywheel. Remember, you got to get your head way down in there to even see it.
Okay. I can't see the teeth.
So I'll show you where it is again.
Okay.
You got to bend your knees and get down. Way. See, this is in the way is all.
Right.
So when that's out of the way,
Well, that's what I meant. I couldn't see it.
she just meant the crank was coming up around and it blocked her view.
Oh, yeah, I see it on the.
So, is the fan turned? Oh, the fan is turned. Okay, It's okay. I don't know, but there was some. I bent this plate. Okay, you can go.
Okay.
I'm gonna explain something and then we're done for the day.
I'm sure it's this one.
Well, there's something that holds it from going backwards. It would go a couple inches, but then it always stopped. Like,
See, my plate's no longer straight. See the bend? That's because I was trying to make it go. Obviously, these, when they start them, they go towards the radiator. So at one point when I couldn't turn it, the only way I could go is back that way. And that's how I bent that plate. It just at one point would have just blew out the porta power had I put an extension pipe on it or something. But as soon as I started going the other way, I actually got all the way around for the first time. And so there must be something that keeps it from going backwards, and I come close to breaking something. So whatever it is in there, if it isn't broke, it's really strong.
I checked the distributor's
So,
turning.
I got it unlocked, but don't know if I broke anything.
So the governor turns, cam turns,
Could have possibly learned something the expensive way.
crank turns.
So I'm ending right now. Thanks for watching, and I can't believe I got it unlocked, but if I wreck something, then it's all for nothing. Not really. At least being unlocked, I probably could get the piston out 75, 100% easier. And then who's to say I'm still not going to get the pistons out and see if the rings are all stuck. I guess I'll have to think about it tonight. And then I got the head to go through. Plenty of work.
Oil,
Seems like I'm getting somewhere, I guess.
oil filter to fix.
June 27th already. All right. Like and subscribe.